The night Emma fell asleep on his shoulder, Marcus learned that sometimes the most important conversations are the ones that happen in complete silence. Marcus Hayes was 37 years old, a technical illustrator who spent his days turning complex machinery into understandable diagrams for engineering manuals. He had been divorced for 3 years from a woman who decided that stability was just another word for boring, and he had made peace with the quiet rhythm of his life. Most evenings found him at the downtown library, working on freelance projects in the second-floor reading room, where the oak tables were solid and the coffee from the vending machine tasted like it had been brewed sometime during the previous administration. It was a Thursday in late October when Emma Chen first sat down across from him. She was maybe 41, with reading glasses that kept sliding down her nose and a mechanical pencil that she clicked obsessively while working through what looked like accounting textbooks. Her sweater had a small coffee stain near the collar that she clearly had not noticed, and her hair was pulled back in a clip that was losing the battle. She did not ask if the seat was taken. She just set down her books, opened her laptop, and got to work. Marcus appreciated that. No small talk, no performance of friendliness, just two adults using the same table. 3 weeks passed before they exchanged more than polite nods. The library became their unspoken arrangement. Same table, same evenings, usually Tuesday and Thursday around 7. She drank tea that smelled like mint and honey. He drank the terrible coffee because it kept him awake. The reading room had tall windows that faced the street, and on rainy nights the sound of water against glass made the space feel like the inside of a snow globe. It was Emma who spoke first. She had been staring at her laptop screen with the expression of someone watching their house burn down, and finally she closed it and said, "If you had to pick one, would you rather take an exam on material you studied badly or skip the exam and take an incomplete?" Marcus looked up from the exploded engine diagram he was labeling. "Are those my only options?" She smiled for the first time. It was tired but real. Unfortunately, he set his pen down. "Oh, what is the exam?" She sighed. Corporate tax law. I am getting my CPA certification. I have been out of school for almost 20 years, and apparently my brain has decided that it is no longer interested in retaining new information. Marcus considered this. Then you take the exam. Worst case, you fail and retake it. An incomplete just means you will be thinking about it for another 6 months. Emma leaned back in her chair and studied him with an expression he could not quite read. "That is very practical advice." He shrugged. "I do diagrams for a living. Everything breaks down into steps." She laughed quietly. "God, I wish my brain worked like that." Then she opened her laptop again and got back to work, but something had shifted. The table felt less like neutral territory and more like shared space. The next week, she brought an extra tea, set it down in front of him without comment. It was good tea, the kind that did not taste like hot water with regret. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You are trying to convert me." Emma did not look up from her notes. "I am trying to save you from whatever that vending machine is doing to your insides." He tried the tea. It was better than the coffee. He did not admit this out loud, but the next Thursday he left the vending machine alone. It became routine. Tea, textbooks, the comfortable quiet of two people working in parallel. Sometimes she asked him questions about tax scenarios that made his head hurt. Sometimes he showed her diagrams, and she pointed out which parts would confuse a normal human. It was easy, uncomplicated. He had not realized how much he missed just sitting near someone without needing to explain himself. Then Derek showed up. It was a Tuesday in mid-November, and Marcus was halfway through labeling a hydraulic pump assembly when a man in an expensive suit sat down at their table uninvited. He was maybe 45, with the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. "Emma," he said, like her name was something he owned. "I thought I would find you here. You have always been predictable." Anders Salkinder Kas Naken. Emma's entire body went rigid. She did not close her laptop, but her hands stopped moving. Derek, what are you doing here? He smiled. It did not reach his eyes. I was in the neighborhood. Thought we could talk about Thanksgiving. Mom is expecting both of us. Emma's voice was very calm. I already told your mother I am not coming. Derek leaned back in his chair, completely at ease. Come on, you are really going to make this difficult? We were together for 6 years, Emma. You do not just walk away from that because you got cold feet. Marcus kept his eyes on his diagram, but every word landed like a hammer. Emma's voice stayed level, but he could hear the tension underneath. I did not get cold feet. I realized I did not want to marry someone who treats me like a project that needs managing. Derek's smile tightened. That is not fair. I supported you. I encouraged you to go back to school. Emma finally looked up. You told me I should get my CPA so I could help with your firm's taxes. That is not encouragement, Derek. That is delegation. The reading room was not empty, but it was quiet enough that a few people were starting to glance over. Derek noticed. He lowered his voice, which somehow made it worse. You are being emotional. Let us talk about this somewhere private. Emma did not move. No. Derek's hand moved toward hers on the table, not grabbing, just hovering. A suggestion of control. Emma, be reasonable. Marcus set his pen down. He did not raise his voice. She said no. Derek's attention swung toward him like a searchlight. I am sorry, who are you? Marcus met his eyes without blinking. Someone who heard her say no. Twice. Atenain Cedar Damthand. Derek's expression shifted into something colder. This does not concern you. Marcus picked his pen back up. Then you should probably leave. There was a moment where the air in the room felt too thick. Derek stood up slowly, adjusting his cuffs. This is not over, Emma. She did not answer. Derek looked at Marcus one more time, then walked out. The sound of his shoes on the marble floor echoed long after he was gone. Emma did not say anything for a full minute. Then she closed her laptop and put her face in her hands. I am sorry. You should not have had to do that. Marcus shook his head. You do not have to apologize. That guy is an asshole. She laughed, but it came out shaky. Yeah, he really is. Einstein. She looked at him, and her eyes were a little too bright. Thank you. He nodded. Do you want to get out of here? She blinked. What? Eindan Kurins. Daten. He gestured toward the window. There is a diner 2 blocks over. The coffee is still bad, but at least the pie is good. And it is not here. They walked to the diner through air that smelled like cold rain and wet pavement. Emma did not say much, and Marcus did not push. The diner was one of those places that had not been updated since the 90s, with red vinyl booths and a jukebox that only played country songs. They sat in the back corner. Marcus ordered coffee he knew he would regret. Emma ordered decaf tea and a slice of apple pie. When the tea arrived, she wrapped both hands around the mug and stared into it like it might have answers. Derek and I were engaged for a year. Together for 5 years before that. He is a corporate tax attorney. Very successful. Very sure of himself. I thought that was attractive at first. Confidence, you know? But somewhere along the way, I realized that his confidence was just the belief that he was always right and everyone else was still catching up. Marcus did not interrupt. She took a sip of tea and continued. I broke it off 8 months ago. He took it badly. Not yelling badly, just persistent badly. He keeps showing up. Keeps acting like it is just a matter of time before I see reason. His family is very involved, very insistent that we are good together. His mother keeps calling me. It is exhausting. Ansurdo Kmenem, the saint said. Marcus leaned back against the booth. You do not owe him anything. You do not owe his family anything. She looked at him with something close to relief. I know, but knowing it and feeling it are 2 different things. The pie arrived and Emma pushed the plate toward the center of the table. Want to share? Marcus picked up the extra fork. You are going to regret that offer. Andir Asindin Asolin. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The pie was good. The coffee was not. Emma smiled at the face he made after the first sip. I tried to warn you. He set the cup down. Some lessons you have to learn firsthand. She asked him about his work, and he told her about the strange beauty of making the complicated simple, how a good diagram could make someone feel capable instead of lost. She told him about going back to school at 40, about feeling like she was too old to start over but doing it anyway because the alternative was staying still. They talked until the diner started putting chairs on tables, and when they walked back toward the library parking lot, the rain had stopped and the street smelled like ozone and wet leaves. Emma unlocked her car, then turned back to him. Same time Thursday? Marcus nodded. Same time. She hesitated, then said, I am glad you were there tonight. Not just for the Derek thing. For all of it. Adinsandasats. He did not know what to say to that, so he just said, me too. Thursday came, and so did Emma. She set an extra tea in front of him, and they worked in their usual quiet. But something had changed. She asked him questions that were not about tax law. He found himself telling her stories he had not thought about in years. The library reading room felt smaller and warmer, like they were the only two people in it even when it was full. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Emma showed up looking like she had not slept. She sat down, opened her laptop, stared at the screen for 5 minutes, then closed it again. I have my exam in 3 days, she said quietly, and I do not think I am ready. Marcus set his pen down. What do you need? Answer D. Natending. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. A time machine, or a brain that works. He considered this. So do you have your notes? Einsinder Srin dots. She gestured at the stack of textbooks and binders that seemed to follow her everywhere. All of them. I have been reading them for weeks. Nothing is sticking. Nothing does sendo der. I seen teaser. Marcus pulled his chair around to her side of the table. Show me the worst section. She blinked at him. You're D. You do not have to do this. I'm so non-circile. He opened her tax law textbook. Show me. They worked for 3 hours. Marcus did not know anything about corporate tax law, but he knew how to break complicated systems into component parts, and he knew how to ask questions that revealed the structure underneath. Emma was smarter than she gave herself credit for. She just needed someone to organize the chaos. At 9:30, the librarian came by to remind them that closing time was in 30 minutes. Emma looked at the pages of notes they had reorganized, the diagrams Marcus had sketched to connect concepts, and she started to cry. Not sobbing, just silent tears that she wiped away quickly. Sorry, I am just tired. Marcus handed her a napkin from his bag. You are going to pass. She shook her head. So you do not know that? He met her eyes. Yeah, I do. The night before her exam, Emma texted him. It was the first time they had communicated outside the library. The message just said, "Are you at the library?" Akirdesin. Diadurin. He was not, but he went. She was already there, surrounded by flashcards and empty teacups. She looked up when he sat down and gave him a weak smile. I could not sleep. Figured I might as well be anxious here. Marcus opened his laptop. Then I will be anxious here with you. She laughed. You are not the one taking the exam. He shrugged. Sin DT. Proximity anxiety. It is contagious. Destingtater die Albins. They did not study, they just sat together. Around midnight, Emma's head started to dip. She was fighting it, blinking hard and sitting up straighter, but eventually her eyes closed and her head came to rest on his shoulder. Marcus went very still. The weight of her was warm and solid and startling. He did not move, he barely breathed. He just sat there, listening to the sound of her breathing evening out, feeling the trust in that small collapse. Her phone was on the table screen facing up. A notification lit it up, and that is when Marcus saw it. Her wallpaper. It was a photo of the two of them at the library table, taken from across the room, probably by someone passing by. They were both bent over a textbook, Emma pointing at something while Marcus sketched a diagram. They looked like they belonged there, like they had been doing this for years, like this was what home looked like. Marcus stared at that photo for a long time. Emma had set a picture of them as her wallpaper, not a selfie, not something staged. Just the two of them, working together, caught in a moment she thought was worth keeping. He did not wake her. He just adjusted slightly so she would be more comfortable and went back to his work with one hand, keeping very still so she could sleep. When Emma woke up 40 minutes later, she lifted her head quickly, blinking and disoriented. Oh God. I am sorry. I fell asleep on you. Marcus closed his laptop. It is fine. You needed the rest. Aanziender anderen sinds. She rubbed her eyes, then checked her phone. Her expression shifted when she saw the time, but she did not seem to notice what Marcus had seen. I should go. Big day tomorrow. He walked her to her car. Before she got in, she turned to him and said, "Thank you for tonight." For all the nights, really. He wanted to tell her about the wallpaper, about what it meant to be someone's background. Instead, he just said, You are going to do great. She took the exam on a Friday. Marcus did not hear from her all day, which he told himself was normal. She texted him Saturday morning. I passed. Barely, but I passed. He texted back immediately. I told you. Her response came a minute later. Dinner? My treat. You earned it. They met at a small Italian place near the library. Emma looked lighter, like someone had removed a weight she had been carrying for months. She ordered wine and pasta and talked rapidly about the exam, about the questions she definitely got wrong, about the moment she realized she actually knew what she was doing. Marcus listened and watched her glow with the kind of tired pride that only comes from surviving something hard. Halfway through dinner, she stopped talking and just looked at him. What? He asked. She shook her head. Nothing. I am just happy. He did not know what to say to that, so he raised his glass. To passing. She clinked her glass against his. To you, for making it possible. After dinner, they walked back toward the parking lot slowly, like neither of them wanted the night to end. It was cold enough to see their breath. Emma shoved her hands in her coat pockets and said, "Can I ask you something?" Marcus nodded. She took a breath. That night at the library, when Derek showed up, why did you step in? You did not have to. He thought about this. Because you said no, and he was not listening. That is reason enough. She stopped walking. That is it? He stopped too. What do you mean? She turned to face him and her expression was serious. Most people would have stayed out of it, called it a private matter. You did not. Marcus held her gaze. I do not think someone refusing to hear no is a private matter. Emma stepped closer, not far, just enough that the space between them felt intentional. I have spent the last 8 months trying to explain to everyone why I left Derek. His family. My family. Everyone kept telling me I was being hasty, that I should try harder, that he was a good man. No one just believed me when I said it was wrong. Her voice was very steady. You believe me. Marcus did not look away. That's because you know yourself better than anyone else does. She was close enough now that he could smell the mint from her tea and the faint scent of her shampoo. I need to tell you something, she said quietly. I have been carrying this around for weeks and I keep talking myself out of it, but I think if I do not say it now, I am just going to keep being careful until it is too late. Andi dasi netsir inetsi. Marcus felt his heart kick hard against his ribs. Okay. She smiled, nervous and real. That day you sat down at the library table, I noticed you immediately. You were so focused on your work, and you had this way of existing in a space without taking up too much room. I like that. And then we started talking, and you were funny and smart, and you did not need me to perform for you. You just let me be tired and stressed and human. She took a breath. And then you helped me study even though you had no reason to, and you stood up to Derek even though it was not your fight. And somewhere in all of that, I stopped thinking of you as my study partner and started thinking of you as the person I wanted to tell things to. The person I wanted to sit next to. The person whose shoulder felt like the safest place I have been in years. Marcus could not breathe. Emma's eyes were bright, but she was not crying. She was just standing there, completely vulnerable, waiting for him to respond. Emma, he started, but she held up a hand. Wait, I am not done. Attentions, Decher. She pulled her phone out of her pocket and unlocked it, then held it up so he could see the screen. The wallpaper. The photo of them at the library. Someone took this a few weeks ago. I did not even notice until later. But when I saw it, I realized that this is what I want my life to look like. Not grand gestures or expensive dinners or someone who makes me feel like I need to be impressive. Just this. You and me figuring things out together. Marcus reached out and took the phone from her hand, looking at the photo again. Two people at a library table. Nothing dramatic. Nothing performative. In dot. Just real. He handed the phone back and said, I saw that. The night you fell asleep on my shoulder. Your phone lit up and I saw the wallpaper. Emma's eyes went wide. You saw it, and you did not say anything? He smiled. I did not want to wake you. Asi absurd. She stared at him for a second, then she started laughing. Not polite laughter. Real, helpless laughter that made her eyes water. You saw it and you just let me sleep? He shrugged. You needed the rest. She wiped her eyes. You are impossible. He took a small step closer. For the record, I have been thinking about you as more than my study partner since the night you brought me tea and told me you were saving me from the vending machine. Emma's smile softened. Really? He nodded. Really? I see Neen and Serene. She looked up at him and her expression was open and clear. So what do we do now? Marcus reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his hand lingering near her jaw. I think you know. She smiled and then she kissed him. It was not desperate or dramatic. It was warm and certain and tasted like wine and the promise of something built slowly and right. When they pulled apart, Emma rested her forehead against his. I am really glad you sat at my table. Marcus smiled. Best seat in the library. 6 months later, Marcus and Emma were still meeting at the library most Tuesday and Thursday evenings, though now they sat on the same side of the table. Emma had passed her CPA exam and started her own small accounting practice. Marcus had started teaching a night class on technical illustration at the community college. Dana Soundindesi Sauberis. They moved in together in April into a small house with a porch and enough room for both their books. On their kitchen counter sat a framed photo of them at the library table, printed and hung not because it was beautiful, but because it was true. Marcus proposed on a Thursday evening at the library in the same spot where they first sat together. Emma said yes before he finished asking. Sometimes the most important conversations are the ones that happen in complete silence. The ones where you fall asleep on someone's shoulder and wake up knowing you are safe. The ones that show up in a wallpaper photo, quietly insisting that this ordinary moment is worth keeping. What would you have done if you saw that someone had made a photo of you their wallpaper? And have you ever had someone show up for you in a way that changed how you saw yourself? Tell me your story in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.